I kept my lottery win from my husband. So yeah, I won $847,000 on a scratch-off ticket I bought at the gas station on my way home from work. Just a random Tuesday. I was sitting in my car in the driveway, scratching it off before heading inside, and all the numbers matched. I literally had to check it like 6 times because I thought I was reading it wrong. My hands were shaking when I went inside. My husband Greg was making dinner, asking about my day, and I just said fine and went straight to the bedroom. I could hear him calling after me, but I locked the door and called the lottery office. They told me to sign the back immediately and come in within 180 days to claim it. Here's the thing. Greg and I had been married for 8 years, and money was always this huge thing between us. He'd buy stuff we didn't need, like a $3,000 golf club set when we were behind on the mortgage, or he'd loan money to his brother who never paid it back. We fought about it constantly, so I didn't tell him. I know how that sounds, but I just didn't. I took a sick day that Friday and went to the lottery office alone. After taxes, I got about $520,000. They asked if I wanted a photo for publicity, and I said absolutely not. I opened a bank account at a completely different bank across town. One Greg didn't even know existed. Put it all in there. The first few weeks were fine. I acted totally normal. Went to work, came home, cooked dinner, watched TV. Greg didn't notice anything. But then I started thinking about what I could actually do with this money, and that's when things got complicated. Our roof had been leaking for 2 years. Greg kept saying we'd fix it next month, but next month never came. So I called a roofing company and paid them $8,500 cash to fix it while Greg was at his job. When he came home and saw the new roof, he completely freaked out. "Where did you get $8,000? He kept asking. I told him my mom gave it to us as an early Christmas gift. He called my mom right there in front of me to thank her, and I had to text her frantically while he was dialing to go along with it. She covered for me but called me later like, "What the hell is going on?" Then our car died. Like fully died, wouldn't start. Mechanic said the transmission was gone and it had cost more to fix than the car was worth. Greg started looking at used cars in our normal price range, like $6,000 beaters that would probably break down in a year. I went and bought a 3-year-old SUV for $28,000 cash, drove it home and parked it in the driveway. Greg came outside and just stared at it. "Whose car is that?" "Ours," I said. "Where did you get $28,000? I told him I'd been saving money from my paychecks for years in a secret account because I wanted to surprise him. He bought it, but he was also kind of mad that I'd been hiding money. The irony wasn't lost on me. Things kept escalating. I paid off both our credit cards, $14,000 total. Told him I got a bonus at work. I bought new appliances when ours broke. Told him they were on sale. I booked us a vacation to Mexico. Told him I won it in a raffle. My mom stopped covering for me after the roof thing. She told me I needed to either tell Greg or stop spending the money because the lies were getting ridiculous. But I couldn't stop. We'd been struggling for so long, and now I could actually fix things. Last week, Greg came home early from work and I was on the phone with a contractor, getting quotes to redo our bathroom. I hung up real quick, but he'd heard enough. "Who was that?" he asked. "Nobody. Spam call." "That didn't sound like a spam call. That sounded like you were talking about our bathroom." He picked up my phone off the counter. I'd forgotten to lock it, and my banking app was still open. Not the regular account we shared, the other one. The one with $387,000 still in it. Greg's face went completely white. He just stood there, staring at the screen, and then he looked at me and said, "I gave your mom $50,000 last month." My stomach dropped. He kept talking, voice shaking. "She called me, crying, said she was losing the house, begged me not to tell you because you'd be upset. So I took a loan from my brother, the kind of loan where he sends guys to collect if you miss payments." He turned the phone toward me. "I've been trying to figure out how to tell you we owe $75,000 now with interest, and you've been sitting on this the whole time?" His brother's truck pulled into our driveway right then. The headlights cut through our living room window like searchlights. Greg was still holding my phone, that banking app glowing between us like a bomb about to detonate. Neither of us moved. Time does this weird thing during moments of crisis. It stretches out, makes everything feel slow and sharp at the same time. I could hear the kitchen faucet dripping that drip I'd been meaning to fix for months. I could hear Greg's breathing, heavy and ragged. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears like a drum. The headlights stayed on, just sitting there, pointing at our house like an accusation. I thought about everything that had led to this moment. The scratch-off ticket, the bank account, the roof and the car and the vacation, and all the little lies I'd told to cover my tracks. Every single choice I'd made over the past 6 months had been about protecting myself, protecting my money, protecting my right to make decisions without Greg's input. And now here we were, caught. I heard the truck door slam, then another door. 2 people. "Greg?" I said. My voice came out barely above a whisper. "What kind of loan did you say this was?" He didn't answer. Just set my phone down on the counter real slow, like it might bite him, and walked toward the front door. I followed him, my legs feeling like they were made of sand. Through the frosted glass panel beside the door, I could see 2 shapes, one big, one bigger. Greg opened the door before they could knock. His brother Vance stood on our porch. Beside him was a man I'd never seen before. Shaved head, thick neck, wearing a polo shirt that was about 2 sizes too small for his arms. The kind of arms that looked like they could snap a broomstick without trying. Evening, Greg, Vance said. He was smiling, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile a cat gives a mouse right before it pounces. Thought I'd swing by with Keller here to discuss our arrangement. I'd met Vance maybe a dozen times over the years. Family dinners, holiday parties, the occasional barbecue. He'd always seemed normal, a little slick, maybe a little too confident, but nothing that screamed dangerous. He ran some kind of consulting business, something Greg had always been vague about when I asked. Now I understood the vagueness. Now I understood a lot of things. Greg stepped back to let them in. I wanted to scream at him, wanted to ask why he was inviting these people into our home at 7:30 on a Tuesday night, but my throat had closed up. This was his brother, his family, and I was the one who'd been keeping secrets. Who was I to demand explanations? Vance walked past me without saying hello. The big guy, Keller, nodded at me once. His eyes scanned our living room like he was taking inventory. They stopped on the new 65-inch TV I'd bought last month. The one I told Greg was a Black Friday deal from 6 months ago that just finally shipped. Nice place, Keller said. His voice was surprisingly soft. Can we talk in the kitchen? Greg asked. He was trying to sound casual, but I could see sweat forming at his temples. Sure. Vance walked toward our kitchen like he owned it. Celia can join us. This involves her too, doesn't it? I looked at Greg. He wouldn't meet my eyes. We all ended up standing around our kitchen island. The same kitchen island where I'd served Greg breakfast that morning, where I'd made our kids lunchboxes when they were still young enough to need them, where we'd talked about our days for 8 years of marriage. Vance leaned against the counter. So here's the thing, Greg. You came to me 6 weeks ago needing 50 grand fast. Said your mother-in-law was about to lose her house. Very emotional, very urgent. Family emergency. I felt something cold slide through my stomach. 6 weeks ago. That was 2 weeks after I'd won the lottery. 2 weeks after I'd started this whole mess. I'm a family man, Vance continued. I helped my brother out, gave him the money at a fair rate, 20%, compounded monthly. Very reasonable for the risk I was taking. 20% compounded monthly. I'd taken exactly one finance class in college, but even I knew that was insane. Loan shark territory. The agreement was repayment in full within 90 days, Vance said. We're at 42 days now. You've made exactly 0 payments, Greg. Not even the interest. I know, Greg said. His voice cracked. I'm working on it. I just need more time. Time, Vance laughed, but there was no humor in it. Time is money, little brother. Every day you don't pay, you owe me more. Right now you're at 68,000. By next week, you'll be at 72. I did the math in my head. At this rate, by the 90-day deadline, we'd owe well over 100,000. For 50,000 borrowed. You can't do that, I said. The words came out before I could stop them. That's not legal. That's usury. You can't charge those rates. Vance turned to look at me like I was a child who just said something cute at the grown-ups table. Celia, sweetheart, did you read a contract? Did you sign anything? Did any of this go through a bank? I looked at Greg. His face told me everything I needed to know. This was a personal loan between brothers, Vance said. A handshake deal. Off the books. No paperwork, no records, no laws. Just trust. He smiled wider. And you know what happens when trust is broken? Keller shifted his weight. Just slightly. Just enough to remind us he was there. I have money, I blurted out. I can pay you. Tonight. Right now. Greg's head snapped toward me. Vance raised an eyebrow. Is that so? Vance pulled out a chair from our kitchen table and sat down, crossing his legs like we were about to have a pleasant conversation. Tell me more. Celia, Greg said. What are you doing? Fixing this? I said. I grabbed my phone from the counter where Greg had left it. The banking app was still open. I have $387,000 in this account. I'll transfer you $68,000 right now and this is over. Vance's eyes narrowed. He looked at Greg, then back at me. That's interesting, because Greg told me you two were struggling, that you could barely make your mortgage payments. That's why he needed the loan in the first place. I didn't know about the money, Greg said. His voice was hollow. I just found out. Right before you got here. Vance let out a low whistle. Hidden assets from your spouse. That's cold, Celia. Very cold. He stood up from the chair. But it does change things. I'll pay you, I said again. 68,000. Right now, we're done. See, here's the problem. Vance walked toward me. Not fast, not threatening, just walking. I'm a businessman. And as a businessman, I'm looking at this situation and seeing opportunity. What opportunity? You have $387,000 that your husband didn't know about, which means nobody knows about it. No tax records, no paper trail, no nothing. And you're clearly willing to spend it to make problems go away. He stopped about 2 feet from me, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Something expensive and sharp. What if I said the debt is now $200,000? Vance said. Interest, penalties, inconvenience fees, very standard in my industry. That's insane, I said. You can't just, I can do whatever I want, Celia. That's what happens when there's no contract. No rules, no laws. He glanced at Keller. No witnesses except people who work for me. Greg stepped forward. Vance, come on. She said she'd pay. Let's just settle this at 68 and move on. Vance held up a hand without looking at his brother. I'm having a conversation with your wife, Greg. The wife who's been lying to you about $500,000. The wife who let you borrow money from me at 20% interest when she could have just paid for your mother-in-law's house herself. He turned back to me. How does that feel, Greg? Knowing she watched you stress about this for 6 weeks? Watched you lose sleep? Watched you come to me, your own brother, hat in hand, begging for money, when she had more than enough to solve the problem sitting in a secret bank account? I couldn't look at Greg. I couldn't look at anyone. I think $200,000 is fair, Vance said. For all the trouble, all the worry, all the family drama this is going to cause. He smiled again. Unless you want to negotiate, pay him, Greg said quietly. I looked at my husband. He was staring at the floor. Greg, pay him whatever he wants, Celia. I don't care anymore. There was something in his voice I'd never heard before. Not anger, not sadness, just empty. Like someone had hollowed him out and left the shell standing in our kitchen. Smart man, Vance said. Keller, give the lady your bank details. Keller pulled out his phone and handed it to me. There was a text message on the screen with an account number and routing number, probably offshore, probably untraceable. I opened my banking app. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely type. $200,000, almost half of what I'd won, gone in a single transfer because I'd been too scared, too stupid, too selfish to tell my husband the truth. I hit confirm. Vance's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, checked the notification, and smiled. Pleasure doing business with you, Celia. He headed for the door, Keller following behind him. Greg, we should get together soon. Family dinner. I'll have my wife call yours. The door closed behind them. Greg and I stood in our kitchen in complete silence. The refrigerator hummed. A car passed on the street outside. Somewhere in the neighborhood, a dog barked. Greg, I finally said. I can explain. He laughed. Not a real laugh. More like a sound escaping from somewhere deep in his chest. Explain what? That you won the lottery and didn't tell me? That you watched me lose my mind trying to figure out how to help your mother, and you said nothing? That you let me go to my own brother. His voice broke. My own brother. Celia, you know what he is. You've always known. I didn't know you were doing that. You never told me about the loan. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to worry you. I didn't tell you because I thought we were in this together, struggling together, trying to make it work together. He slammed his hand on the counter so hard our fruit bowl jumped. But we weren't together at all, were we? You were just watching, waiting to see what I'd do. That's not fair. Fair? He laughed again. You want to talk about fair? What's fair about hiding $500,000 from your husband for 6 months? What's fair about lying to my face every single day? The roof, the car, the vacation? I thought we were getting lucky. I thought things were finally going our way. And the whole time, you were just playing house, playing poor, playing me. I had never seen Greg like this. In 8 years, through fights about money, about his family, about everything, I'd never seen him look at me like I was a stranger, like I was the enemy. I was scared, I said. The truth felt pathetic coming out of my mouth. I know how you are with money. I was afraid you'd spend it all on stupid stuff. Golf clubs, your brother's schemes, your friends who never pay you back. So you spent it on the house instead. On our house. On our car. On a vacation for us. How is that any different? Because it was smart spending. Because I was making decisions that actually helped our life. Without me. His voice dropped. Without your husband. Without your partner. You made $300,000 worth of decisions without once asking me what I thought. He walked to the refrigerator and pulled out a beer, twisted off the cap and threw it in the sink. My mom doesn't actually need the money, does she? I asked. The question had been burning in my brain since he'd mentioned it. Greg took a long drink before answering. Oh, she needed it. Your mom was about to lose her house. That part was true. Then why didn't she tell me? Because she knows you. She knows you'd ask questions, demand to see paperwork, want to talk to the bank yourself. You'd turn it into a whole investigation. He laughed bitterly. She thought I'd be easier to deal with. Just help. Don't ask questions. Classic Vivian. My mother had called my husband instead of me, had manipulated him into taking a dangerous loan instead of asking me for help, had watched him spiral for 6 weeks while I sat on enough money to solve everything. We were all liars in this family. Every single one of us. I still have $187,000, I said quietly. After tonight, that's still more money than we've ever had. Is that supposed to make me feel better? I'm just saying we can still do things with it. Pay off the mortgage, save for the kids' college, actually plan for the future. Greg finished his beer and set the empty bottle on the counter. You know what the funny thing is? I actually understand why you didn't tell me. I do. I've made bad decisions with money. Lots of them. The golf clubs, the loans to my friends, all of it. I deserved not to be trusted. Greg, but you still should have told me. He finally looked at me. His eyes were red. You should have told me and let me prove I could do better. Instead, you just decided I couldn't. And now we're here. $200,000 poorer. With my brother knowing exactly how much money you have, and our marriage. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. What do we do now? I asked. I don't know. I honestly don't know. He picked up his keys from the hook by the door. I'm going to stay at my buddy's place tonight. I need to think. Please don't leave. Celia. He stopped at the door but didn't turn around. I've spent 6 weeks lying awake next to you, trying to figure out how to tell you I'd put us $75,000 in debt. 6 weeks of nightmares about Keller showing up when you were home alone. 6 weeks of making plans for how to get out of this without losing everything. He finally turned. The light from the porch hit his face, and I could see the lines I'd never really noticed before. When had we gotten old? And the whole time, he said, the whole time, you had the answer in your pocket. You could have made one phone call, written one check, and instead you let me drown. The door closed behind him. I stood in my kitchen alone. The same kitchen where we'd celebrated promotions and birthdays and anniversaries. The same kitchen where our kids had taken their first steps, spilled their first drinks, hidden their first report cards. I looked at my phone. The banking app was still open. $187,243.67. Less than 3 months ago, I'd had nothing. Now I had almost $200,000 and a husband who might never trust me again. I called my mother. She answered on the 4th ring. Celia, it's almost 9 o'clock. Is everything? You called Greg. You asked him for $50,000 and told him not to tell me. Silence on the line. Then a sigh. He told you. He didn't have a choice. His brother just showed up at our house with an enforcer and extorted us for $200,000. What? Her voice went sharp with alarm. Celia, what are you talking about? What enforcer? I told her everything. The lottery, the secret account, the lies I'd been telling Greg for months, the loan he'd taken out to help her, Vance's visit, the payment I'd just made. When I finished, my mother was crying. I didn't know, she said. I didn't know Greg would go to Vance. I thought he'd get a bank loan, or use a credit card, or I didn't know, Celia. You have to believe me. Why didn't you just ask me? Because you would have asked questions. You would have wanted to know how I got into trouble, and then you would have found out about the gambling, and I almost dropped the phone. The gambling? What gambling? It started after your father died. Just online poker, just small amounts. I thought I could make some extra money to supplement Social Security, but then I lost, and I tried to win it back, and she was sobbing now, full, heaving sobs that I could feel through the phone. I lost everything, Celia. The savings, the emergency fund, the money your father left me. I took out a reverse mortgage to keep playing because I was so sure I could turn it around. And then the bank sent me a foreclosure notice, and I panicked, and I called Greg because I knew he would help without asking questions. My mother had a gambling addiction. My mother had lost everything. My mother had manipulated my husband into borrowing money from a loan shark because she was too ashamed to tell me the truth. The lies went all the way down. Every single layer. Mom, I said carefully, how much do you owe? Total. Everything. I don't know exactly. Maybe 100,000? The house is worth about 250, and the bank owns most of it now. And there are some credit cards I used when the poker site stopped taking my debit card. $100,000. On top of the 200 I just paid Vance. On top of everything else. I have $187,000 left, I said. I can bail you out. Pay off whatever you owe. Save your house. Get you into some kind of program. No. My mother's voice was suddenly firm. Absolutely not. That's your money, Celia. Your future. Your children's future. I'm not taking it. You already took $50,000. Through Greg. And look what happened. Look at the mess I've made. No. I'll figure something out. File for bankruptcy. Move into an apartment. Something. But I won't let you destroy your marriage even more to clean up my mess. We talked for another hour. She told me about the escalation. How it started with $20 bets and turned into $500 hands, then $2,000, then playing through the night because she was sure the next deal would be the one that fixed everything. It was the same logic I'd used with the lottery money. Just one more purchase. Just one more improvement. Just one more lie to keep the peace. Maybe being unable to tell the truth was genetic. By the time I hung up, it was almost 11. Greg hadn't texted. Hadn't called. I didn't know if that was better or worse than screaming at each other. I cleaned the kitchen even though it wasn't dirty. Loaded the dishwasher. Wiped down counters that didn't need wiping. Anything to keep my hands busy while my brain ran in circles. At midnight, I went to bed in our empty room. The sheets still smelled like Greg's cologne. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, doing math. $520,000 after taxes from the lottery. Minus $8,500 for the roof. Minus $28,000 for the car. Minus $14,000 for the credit cards. Minus the vacation. Minus the appliances. Minus all the other little purchases I'd justified because they were necessary. Because they improved our lives. Because Greg would have just wasted the money anyway. $387,000 before tonight. Minus $200,000 to Vance. $187,243.67. In 6 months, I'd spent over $330,000. Most of it without telling my husband. Most of it based on lies. I was no better than my mother. We were both gamblers. She gambled with poker chips, I gambled with my marriage, and we'd both lost. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Greg. Staying at Mike's tonight. We need to talk tomorrow. Not sure what I want to do yet. I typed back. I love you. I'm sorry. I'll be here when you're ready. He didn't respond. I dreamed about Vance that night, about Keller's soft voice and scanning eyes, about my mother crying over poker chips, about Greg walking out the door and never coming back. When I woke up, the sun was streaming through the windows and my phone showed 6 missed calls, all from my mother's neighbor, and a voicemail that started with, "Celia, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but your mother was taken by ambulance last night. End of part 1. Part 2. I didn't even put on real clothes. I grabbed the yoga pants and t-shirt I'd thrown on the chair the night before, shoved my feet into sneakers, and was in the car within 3 minutes of hearing the voicemail. My mother lived 45 minutes away on a good traffic day. I made it in 32, running 2 red lights and hitting 90 on the highway. The whole drive, I kept calling the hospital, kept getting put on hold, kept leaving messages for nurses who were too busy to call back. All I knew was what Mrs. Patterson, my mother's neighbor, had told me in her voicemail. Ambulance, unresponsive, rushed to Street Josephs. I called Greg. It went to voicemail. Greg, my mom's in the hospital. I don't know what happened. I'm on my way there now. Please call me back. He didn't. When I burst into the emergency room at Street Josephs, a nurse directed me to a waiting area with plastic chairs and a TV mounted in the corner playing morning news with the sound off. I sat there for what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes before a doctor came out. "Mrs. Brennan? That's me. Where's my mother? What happened?" Dr. Navarro was a small woman with tired eyes and kind hands. She sat in the chair next to me and spoke in that careful, measured tone doctors use when they're about to deliver news you don't want to hear. "Your mother had a cardiac event last night, a heart attack. She called 911 herself around 2 a.m., and paramedics found her unconscious by the time they arrived. Is she alive? Yes. She's stable now. We had to perform emergency surgery to place a stent in one of her arteries. She's in the ICU, heavily sedated, but she's expected to recover." I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "Can I see her?" "In a few minutes. But I need to ask you some questions first." "Doctor." Navarro pulled out a small notepad. "Your mother's blood work showed some concerning levels. Signs of chronic stress, elevated cortisol, indications of alcohol use. Was she under any particular pressure recently?" I almost laughed. "You could say that. I also noticed her blood pressure medication hadn't been refilled in 3 months. Was she struggling financially?" The questions kept coming. Questions about my mother's diet, her habits, her support system. Each answer revealed another layer of neglect, not by me, but by herself. She'd been so consumed by her gambling, by her shame, by her desperate attempts to fix everything on her own, that she'd literally stopped taking care of her body. "One more thing, doctor," Navarro said. When she was semi-conscious in the ambulance, she kept repeating something. A name, I think. Greg. Does that mean anything to you? My husband's name. The last thing my mother said before passing out was my husband's name. Because she'd called him for help instead of me. Because he was the one who tried to save her. Because in her worst moment, she thought of the person she'd betrayed, not the daughter she'd lied to. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to get in my car and drive until I ran out of gas somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Instead, I just nodded. He's my husband. She was worried about money she owed him. Dr. Navarro gave me a look that suggested she'd filled in more blanks than I'd provided. Your mother is going to need significant recovery time. At least a week in the hospital, then probably a stay in a rehab facility. She's going to need help managing her medications, her diet, her stress levels. Is there someone who can provide that support? I can, I said. Even as I said it, I wasn't sure if it was true. They let me see her around noon. She was in a private room in the ICU, hooked up to machines that beeped and whirred, tubes running into her arms. She looked 20 years older than she had last Christmas. Her eyes fluttered open when I walked in. "Celia? I'm here, Mom. I'm sorry." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I'm so sorry." I took her hand. It felt like paper, fragile and dry. "Just rest. We can talk about everything later." "Did you tell Greg?" I called him. "He hasn't responded yet." Her eyes filled with tears. "I ruined everything. For both of you. I ruined everything." "Stop." I squeezed her hand gently. "Right now, your only job is to get better. That's it. Nothing else matters." But of course, that wasn't true. Everything else mattered. The money, the lies, my marriage, her debts. None of it would pause just because she was lying in a hospital bed. I sat with her until she fell asleep again, then went to the cafeteria to get coffee and figure out my next move. My phone buzzed. A text from Greg. "Your mom okay?" I typed back. "Heart attack. She's stable. ICU at Street Josephs." A pause. Then, "I'll come by after work." It wasn't much, but it was something. At least he wasn't completely shutting me out. I spent the afternoon dealing with the practical stuff, talking to the hospital social worker about my mother's insurance, Medicare, thankfully, which covered most of the emergency costs, contacting her bank to get a freeze put on her accounts until we could figure out the full extent of her debts, calling her neighbor to let her know what had happened and to ask her to keep an eye on the house. Mrs. Patterson was a godsend. She agreed to water my mother's plants, collect her mail, and check on the house daily. She also gently told me some things I hadn't known. "Your mother's been struggling for a while, dear. I've seen men coming to her door. Not social visitors, if you know what I mean. She paid them cash I could see through my window. I tried to ask if she needed help, but she always said she was fine. Men coming to the door. Debt collectors, probably. Maybe worse. How long has this been going on? At least 6 months? Maybe longer? I didn't want to pry, but 6 months. Right around the time my father died. Right when her world fell apart and she turned to gambling to cope. I thanked Mrs. Patterson and hung up. Then I went back to my mother's room and sat in the chair by her bed, watching her breathe, wondering how much more could possibly go wrong. Greg showed up around 6. He was still wearing his work clothes, khakis, and a blue polo with his company's logo on the chest. He looked exhausted. How is she? Stable. They're moving her out of the ICU tomorrow if she keeps improving. He nodded, shoved his hands in his pockets, looked around the room at everything except me. I'm not here to fight, he said finally. I just wanted to make sure she was okay. I know. He walked to my mother's bedside and looked down at her sleeping form. She called me crying, said she was going to lose her house, said it was a problem with the bank, some paperwork issue that needed cash to fix. She begged me not to tell you because she was embarrassed. She was gambling. Online poker. She lost everything and didn't know how to tell me. Greg closed his eyes. Of course she was. I found out last night, after you left. I called her to yell at her about manipulating you, and she told me everything. Does she know about the heart attack? I mean, she's the one who had it. So, I meant, does she know what caused it? The stress, the lying, all of it. I think she knows. Greg finally looked at me. His eyes were red, but I couldn't tell if it was from crying or lack of sleep or just the fluorescent hospital lighting. I want to be angry at you, he said. I am angry at you. But looking at her, looking at what secrets and lies did to her, he shook his head. I don't want us to end up like that. We won't. You can't promise that. Not after what you did. I know, but I can try. We can try. He didn't say anything, just stood there, hands in his pockets, looking at my mother's fragile body in that too big hospital bed. I talked to my brother, he said finally. My blood went cold. Vance? We have other brothers, but yeah, Vance. Greg walked to the window and stared out at the parking lot. I told him I knew about the extra $130,000, that he extorted my wife for way more than we owed. What did he say? He laughed. Said business is business. And I should have read the fine print. Greg's jaw tightened. I told him if he ever showed up at our house again, I'd call the cops. Would they even do anything? Probably not. But it felt good to say it. He turned back toward me. He also said something interesting. He said he knew about the lottery. My stomach dropped. How? Apparently, when you claim a prize that big in this state, it becomes public record. Your name, the amount, the date, it's all there if you know where to look. He's had people keeping an eye on major winners for years. It's part of how he finds marks. I felt sick. He targeted us? No, he targeted you. When your mom called me for help, he saw an opportunity. He knew I'd come to him because I had nowhere else to go. He knew exactly how much he could squeeze out of us. Greg's voice was bitter. My own brother had been planning this for months, waiting for the right moment. The room seemed to tilt. All this time, I'd thought I was the one keeping secrets, playing games, pulling strings, but Vance had been 10 steps ahead of all of us. He'd been watching lottery winners, tracking new money in the system, waiting for someone vulnerable to need help, then positioning himself to take advantage. It was brilliant in its cruelty. Find people who suddenly have more than they're used to. Wait for someone in their orbit to have a crisis. Offer to help, then trap them in debt they can't escape. The victims couldn't even complain, because doing so would expose the windfall they'd been hiding. How many people has he done this to? I asked. I don't know. A lot. Greg walked to the kitchen table and sat down heavily. He once told me at a family barbecue that he'd made more money in 10 years than our father made in his whole life. I thought he was exaggerating, bragging. Now I realize he was probably understating it. We have to stop him. How? We have no proof, no paper trail, just his word against ours. And right now, his word is backed up by the $200,000 sitting in his account. I'm going to get the money back, Greg said. What? How? I don't know yet, but I'm done letting him win. I'm done being the idiot little brother who gets manipulated and extorted and laughed at. He looked at me with something I hadn't seen in his eyes in years. Determination. Fire. We're going to figure this out together, Celia. The money, your mom, our marriage, all of it. But no more secrets. No more lies. From either of us. I stood up and walked toward him. He didn't move away, which I took as a good sign. No more secrets, I said. I promise. I need you to tell me everything. Every dollar you spent. Every lie you told. Every decision you made without me. I need to know all of it so we can figure out where we really stand. Okay. And then we're going to deal with my brother. Together. I nodded. Together. He still hadn't touched me. Hadn't hugged me or kissed me or even put a hand on my shoulder. But he was standing there, in the same room, talking about our future like we still had one. It was a start. We stayed at the hospital until visiting hours ended at 9. Greg drove me to my car in the parking lot, then followed me home to make sure I got there safely. He didn't come inside, but he did text me when he got to Mike's place. We'll talk more tomorrow. Get some sleep. I didn't sleep. I spent the night going through every financial decision I'd made since winning the lottery, documenting each purchase, each lie, each dollar spent without Greg's knowledge. The list was longer than I wanted to admit, but it was the first step toward fixing things, the first brick in rebuilding trust, the first honest thing I'd done in 6 months. The next few weeks were brutal. My mother was released from the hospital into a cardiac rehab facility, where she'd spend 30 days recovering and getting evaluated for mental health support. Turns out, gambling addiction is often linked to depression and anxiety, both of which she'd been masking for years. I visited her every day. Some days she was lucid and apologetic, ready to do the work to get better. Other days she was defensive and angry, blaming everyone and everything except herself. The counselor said this was normal. Recovery isn't linear. Meanwhile, Greg and I were doing our own kind of recovery. He moved back into the house after a week at Mike's, but he slept in the guest room. We ate meals together, talked about our days, went to couples therapy twice a week with a woman named Dr. Simone, who specialized in financial betrayal. Yes, apparently that's a real specialty. Dr. Simone's office was in a converted Victorian house downtown, all soft lighting and comfortable chairs. The first time we sat on that couch together, neither of us could look at the other. She let us sit in silence for almost 5 minutes before speaking. "Why are you here?" she asked. "Because my wife hid $500,000 from me," Greg said. "Because I was afraid to trust my husband with money," I said. Dr. Simone nodded, like we'd just confirmed something she already knew. "So you're both here because of fear." The therapy was hard, harder than I'd expected. Dr. Simone made us talk about things we'd buried for years, the real reasons we fought about money, the childhood experiences that shaped our spending habits, the assumptions we'd made about each other without ever asking if they were true. I learned that Greg's spending wasn't about carelessness. It was about proving he could provide. His father had lost his job when Greg was 12, and the family had spent 2 years living on food stamps and welfare. Greg grew up convinced that a man's worth was measured by what he could give his family. The golf clubs, the loans to friends, the desire to help everyone, it all came from that same terrified place. And Greg learned that my secrecy wasn't about greed or distrust. It was about control. My parents' marriage had fallen apart because my father made all the financial decisions and never told my mother anything. When he died, she discovered they were $200,000 in debt. She spent the rest of her life paying off obligations she'd never known existed. I grew up convinced that the only way to stay safe was to keep control of my own money, even if that meant keeping secrets from the person I'd promised to share my life with. Slowly, painfully, we started to rebuild. The money was a constant topic. With Vance's extortion and my various purchases, we were down to about $175,000, still more than we'd ever had, but way less than the windfall I'd hidden for so long. We made a plan: pay off the mortgage, $134,000, put $20,000 in savings for emergencies, use the rest to help my mother get back on her feet once she was out of rehab. It felt strange, making financial decisions together. After 8 years of fighting about money, actually collaborating on it was like learning a new language. But Dr. Simone helped us develop a system. Monthly budget meetings, shared access to all accounts, no purchases over $200 without a conversation first. It wasn't perfect. We still argued. He still thought I was being controlling about certain things. I still thought he was too casual about saving. But at least we were fighting fair, with all the cards on the table. The Vance problem, though, remained unsolved. Greg had done some research. Turns out, Vance had been running his family lending business for almost a decade. He targeted people who couldn't get bank loans, people with bad credit, people in desperate situations, people too embarrassed to tell their families the truth. He charged usurious rates, used intimidation to collect, and had never once been charged with a crime because he kept everything off the books. He was smart, careful, connected, and he had $200,000 of my money. "We need a lawyer," Greg said one night. We were sitting on the couch, going through our options for the 100th time. "A lawyer can't help. There's no paper trail." He specifically makes sure there's never a paper trail. "There has to be something we can do." "Like what? Go to the police? Tell them my brother-in-law extorted us with no evidence? They'll laugh us out of the station." Greg was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "What if we got evidence?" "What do you mean?" "What if I talked to him again? Wore a wire? Got him to admit what he did on tape?" I stared at my husband. "That's insane. He'd figure it out. And then what? Keller shows up at our door again. But this time, he's not just there to scare us." "I'm tired of being scared." Greg's voice was hard. "I'm tired of letting him win. He's done this to dozens of people, Celia. Hundreds. Maybe. What he does destroys lives. And he just keeps getting away with it because everyone's too afraid to fight back. I'm not too afraid. I'm being realistic. Same difference." We went back and forth for hours. Greg wanted to take action. I wanted to cut our losses and move on. Neither of us was willing to budge. Finally, Dr. Simone suggested we take a week to think it over separately before making any decisions. "Major choices like this shouldn't be made in the heat of anger," she said. "Give yourselves time to cool down and consider all the options." So we did. For 1 week, we didn't talk about Vance. We focused on work, on my mother's recovery, on the small daily tasks of rebuilding our life together. And then, on day 7, something happened that changed everything. I was at the rehab facility, sitting with my mother while she did her physical therapy exercises, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Is this Celia Brennan? Who's this? My name is Rachel Vasquez. I'm a reporter with the Tribune. I've been investigating a man named Vance Holloway for a story about predatory lending in the area. I understand he's your brother-in-law? I stepped out into the hallway, heart pounding. How did you get my number? Public records. Your name came up in connection with his. Rachel's voice was professional but warm. I know this is out of the blue, but I've been working on this story for 6 months. I have sources who say Vance extorted significant money from you and your husband. I'm wondering if you'd be willing to talk about it. On the record. I leaned against the wall, phone pressed to my ear, mind racing. A reporter. Investigating Vance. With sources who already knew what he'd done to us. I need to talk to my husband first, I said. Can I call you back? Of course. But Celia? Rachel paused. I have 15 other victims willing to go on record. Your story could help bring this man down. Whatever he did to you, he's done to a lot of other people. And they deserve justice too. I got her number and hung up. Then I called Greg. You're not going to believe this, I said. End of part 2. Part 3. Greg and I met Rachel Vasquez at a coffee shop downtown 3 days later. She was in her late 30s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense haircut. The kind of reporter you'd see in movies about exposing corruption. She brought documents. Lots of documents. Court records, financial statements, testimonials from other victims. For 6 months, she'd been building a case against Vance that made our experience look like a parking ticket. He's been doing this for 12 years, Rachel explained, spreading papers across the table. Started small, lending to friends of friends at high rates, then expanded. He targets vulnerable people, recent widows, divorcees, people going through medical emergencies, people who are desperate and embarrassed and won't ask too many questions. I looked at the names on the testimonials. Elena Gutierrez, $45,000 borrowed, $120,000 repaid over 3 years. Marcus Webb, $20,000 borrowed, house foreclosed when he couldn't meet Vance's demands. Donna Patterson. Wait, I grabbed the paper. Patterson? Does she have a son named Keller? Rachel nodded. Donna is Keller's mother. Vance bankrupted her 8 years ago, then offered her son a job when he couldn't find work anywhere else. It's how he builds loyalty. He destroys you, then offers you a lifeline as long as you work for him. Keller's soft voice, his scanning eyes. He wasn't just muscle, he was another victim, trapped in Vance's web. Why haven't you published yet? Greg asked. If you have all this, why is he still walking around free? Because I need something that will actually stick. Testimonials from victims are compelling, but they're he said, she said without hard evidence. Everyone Vance deals with, he does it off the books. No contracts, no recordings, no paper trails. I need someone who can get me something concrete. She looked at Greg. You want me to wear a wire? He said. I want you to have a conversation with your brother. One where he thinks he's safe, thinks he's among family. One where he admits what he does in his own words. That's insane, I said. It's dangerous. If Vance figures out what's happening, he won't. Rachel pulled out her phone and showed us a device that looked like a regular pen. This records audio in crystal clear quality from up to 30 feet away. No wires, no bulky equipment. He'd never know. And if he does know? Greg asked. If something goes wrong, then you walk away. You don't push. You don't press. You have a normal family conversation and leave. But based on what I know about Vance, he likes to brag. He likes to feel powerful. If you give him the right opportunity, he'll do all the work for us. Greg and I exchanged looks. This was exactly what he'd wanted, a chance to fight back, to make Vance pay, to do something instead of just accepting our losses. But it was also exactly what I'd been afraid of. Can we have a few days to think about it? I asked. Of course. But Celia? Rachel gathered her papers. Whatever you decide, this story is running with or without you. I have enough other victims to make the case, but your husband is Vance's brother. His testimony would be the smoking gun. It would be the thing that makes this go from local news to something bigger, maybe even criminal charges. She left us with her card and a folder of documents to review. Greg and I sat in that coffee shop for another hour, not really talking, just processing. I want to do it, he finally said. I know, but not if you're against it. This affects both of us. We agreed no big decisions without both of us on board. I looked at my husband, the man who'd borrowed money from a shark to help my mother, the man who'd spent 6 weeks terrified and guilty and completely alone because I'd been too selfish to share my secret, the man who was still here, still trying, still fighting for our future despite everything I'd done. I'm not against it, I said slowly. I'm scared. There's a difference. I know, but being scared isn't a reason not to do the right thing. Greg reached across the table and took my hand. It was the first real physical contact we'd had since he found out about the money. His palm was warm, familiar, home. Together, he said. Together. The plan came together over the next 2 weeks. Rachel coached Greg on what to say, how to steer the conversation, what topics might get Vance to open up. We practiced at home, me playing Vance while Greg rehearsed his lines. You're too stiff, I told him after one session. You sound like you're reading from a script. That's because I am reading from a script. You can't do that with Vance. He'll know something's wrong. You need to be natural, relaxed. Like you're just having a beer with your brother. Hard to be relaxed when my brother is a sociopathic loan shark. Then fake it. You spent 6 weeks faking normal while you were drowning in debt. You can fake normal for one conversation. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Vance's birthday was coming up his 40th. Their mother insisted on throwing a family party at her house, and attendance was mandatory for all the Holloway siblings. It's perfect, Rachel said when Greg told her. Family setting, alcohol flowing, people letting their guard down. He'll be in a good mood. Receptive. What if he doesn't say anything useful? Then you try again. We're not putting all our eggs in one basket. But if we're going to get him, this is probably our best shot. The party was on a Saturday. I wasn't invited. Vance's wife and I had never gotten along. And after the extortion incident, my presence would have raised red flags. So Greg went alone, the recording pen clipped to his shirt pocket. Rachel parked 2 blocks away in a surveillance van monitoring the audio feed. I stayed home and tried not to lose my mind. Every 10 minutes, I checked my phone. Nothing from Greg. Nothing from Rachel. Just silence and the slow tick of the clock. Greg had been gone for 3 hours when my phone finally rang. "We got it," Rachel said. She sounded triumphant. "We got everything." Turns out, Vance was exactly the kind of braggart Rachel had predicted. After a few beers, surrounded by family who he thought would never betray him, he'd opened up about his business in alarming detail. He talked about specific victims by name, Rachel told me later, playing back the recording on her laptop. He talked about his rate structure, his collection methods, how he finds marks. He even bragged about the $200,000 he got from Greg's naive wife, his words. And he mentioned at least 3 other active loans that are currently being collected. I listened to my brother-in-law's voice, casual and confident, describing how he'd extorted people for over a decade, how he'd ruined lives and never lost a night's sleep, how he considered it just smart business to prey on people who were desperate and scared. My hands shook as I listened. Not with fear, with anger. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now I write my story. It runs next Sunday. And then I hand everything over to the district attorney's office. Will he go to jail? Hard to say. Usury is a misdemeanor in this state, but some of his collection methods could qualify as extortion, which is a felony. At minimum, he'll face civil suits from every victim willing to come forward. At best, criminal charges that could put him away for years." Greg was quiet during this whole conversation. When Rachel left, I found him sitting on the back porch, staring at the yard. "How are you feeling?" I asked. "Like I just betrayed my brother." "He betrayed you first." "I know. That's what makes it worse." He took a deep breath. "He's still my brother. Celia. We grew up together. We played baseball in that backyard when we were kids, and now I'm going to be the reason his life falls apart." I sat down next to him. "His life is falling apart because of what he did, not because of what you did. You're just making sure there are consequences. Is that how you felt? When you were hiding the money from me? Did you tell yourself you were protecting me?" The question hit like a punch to the gut. "That's not the same thing, isn't it? You kept secrets because you thought you knew better. I'm exposing secrets because I think I know better. Either way, we're making decisions for other people without their input. Vance extorted us. He's hurt dozens of people. This isn't about knowing better, it's about stopping someone who's genuinely dangerous." "I know." Greg rubbed his face. "I know. I keep thinking about what our mom is going to say, about Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas parties and all the family stuff that's never going to be normal again. Was it ever normal? Really?" He didn't answer. But we both knew the truth. The Holloway family had been broken long before this. Vance had seen to that. The story ran the following Sunday. Front page of the Metro section. Predatory lender exposed. Local businessman accused of extorting hundreds of thousands from vulnerable victims. Rachel had done her job well. The article was thorough, devastating, and impossible to ignore. It named Vance. It named his victims. It quoted the recording Greg had made at length, with his permission. By noon, the story had been picked up by 3 local TV stations. By evening, it was trending on social media. By the next morning, the district attorney's office had announced they were opening a formal investigation. Vance called Greg exactly once. The afternoon the story broke. "You did this." His voice was flat, controlled. "My own brother, you did this to yourself," Greg said. "Every victim you hurt, every life you destroyed, that was all you. You have no idea what you've started. No idea. Is that a threat?" "It's a fact." Vance's voice dropped. "You think a newspaper article is going to stop me? You think I don't have contingencies? You and your stupid wife just made the biggest mistake of your lives." The line went dead. We called Rachel immediately. She wasn't worried. "He's panicking. That's what people do when they're cornered. The last thing Vance is going to do right now is come after you. It would only make things worse for him. He's going to lawyer up, deny everything, and try to ride this out." She was right. Over the next few weeks, Vance did exactly that. He hired an expensive defense attorney who issued statements calling the article sensationalized and full of inaccuracies. He denied any wrongdoing. He claimed the recording had been edited and taken out of context. None of it mattered. More victims came forward after the story ran. Then more. The DA's office built a case that was impossible to deny. 3 months after the article published, Vance Holloway was arrested and charged with 12 counts of usury, 4 counts of extortion, and 2 counts of criminal intimidation. Bail was set at $500,000. He couldn't make it. His wife filed for divorce while he was in jail awaiting trial. His mother refused to speak to Greg for 6 months. His other siblings were split. Some thought Greg had done the right thing. Others thought he'd betrayed the family. But Vance's victims? They sent cards. They sent flowers. They showed up at our doorstep just to say thank you. Elena Gutierrez, the woman who'd paid $120,000 on a $45,000 loan, hugged Greg in our kitchen and cried. "You gave me my life back," she said. "I thought I'd be paying him forever." The civil suits came next. 17 victims, represented by a class action law firm, sued Vance for damages totaling over $2 million. Since his assets were frozen pending criminal trial, the money would come slowly, if at all, but it was something. It was acknowledgement. One of those victims was my mother. It turned out, Vance hadn't just sent Greg after her money, he'd been watching her for months. His network of informants included someone at the bank where she had her accounts. They'd flagged her gambling losses, her increasing desperation, her reverse mortgage. Vance had known she was a perfect target long before she ever called Greg. The $50,000 Greg borrowed wasn't supposed to actually help her. It was supposed to trap her in a cycle of debt that Vance could exploit. If she'd missed a payment, Vance would have gone after her house, the same house she'd nearly lost to gambling. He would have taken everything she had left and called it interest. When Mom found out, when she realized how deep Vance's manipulation went, something shifted in her. The defensiveness, the denial, it all melted away. She'd been blaming herself for years, thinking her gambling addiction had caused all of this. Now she understood that she'd been targeted, exploited, deliberately pushed toward destruction by someone who'd identified her as prey. "I thought I was weak," she told me one day, sitting in her little apartment near the rehab center. "I thought I was the problem, but it wasn't just me. Someone was pulling strings the whole time, making everything worse on purpose. That doesn't excuse the gambling." No, it doesn't. But it does explain why every time I thought I was getting better, something would go wrong. Every time I tried to climb out of the hole, something would push me back down. She shook her head. "I'm not saying it's all his fault. I made choices. Bad choices. But he made sure those choices would destroy me." She started taking her recovery seriously after that. She went to Gamblers Anonymous meetings. She let me help her set up a budget and manage her finances. "I almost lost everything because I was too proud to ask for help," she told me one day, sitting in her little apartment near the rehab center. "I don't want to be that person anymore." Neither did I. The trial lasted 4 weeks. Greg testified on day 12. I watched from the gallery as he answered questions about his brother's business, their childhood, the loan that had started everything. The courtroom was nothing like the dramatic legal dramas on TV. It was mostly boring hours of procedural arguments and document reviews and lawyers objecting to things for reasons I couldn't understand. But when Greg took the stand, the room went quiet. Everyone could feel the weight of what was about to happen. The prosecutor was a woman named Victoria Chen, sharp and relentless. She walked Greg through everything methodically. How he'd come to Vance for help, what the terms of the loan had been, how the interest had spiraled out of control. "Did you know what your brother was when you borrowed the money?" the prosecutor asked. "I knew he wasn't conventional," Greg said. His voice was steady, but I could see his hands trembling in his lap. "I knew his rates were high, but I didn't understand the full picture until later, until he came to my house and demanded more than we owed." "And why did you agree to help with the investigation?" Greg was quiet for a moment. I watched him look across the courtroom, past the lawyers and the judge and the jury, to where Vance was sitting at the defense table. His brother, the man he'd trusted, the man who'd betrayed him. "Because he's my brother," Greg said finally, "and because I couldn't watch him hurt anyone else." The defense attorney tried to discredit Greg's testimony, tried to suggest he was motivated by jealousy or revenge or some kind of family feud. But Greg stayed calm, answered every question honestly, never got defensive or angry. I'd never been prouder of him. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They came back with guilty verdicts on all counts. Vance was sentenced to 8 years in state prison. He'd be eligible for parole in 4. After the sentencing, Greg and I drove home in silence. It was over, really over, and neither of us knew quite how to feel. "Are you okay?" I finally asked. "I don't know. Are you?" "I don't know either." He reached over and took my hand on the center console. We drove the rest of the way like that, connected, uncertain, but together. That night we ordered pizza and watched stupid movies and didn't talk about Vance or the trial or any of it. We just existed in the same space. 2 people who'd been through something terrible and come out the other side. Around midnight, Greg turned to me. "I forgive you," he said. I blinked. "What?" "The money, the lottery, the lies. I've been trying to forgive you for months, but I couldn't quite get there. Something was stuck." He paused. "But watching my brother get sentenced today, seeing the consequences of all his lies and manipulation, it made me realize something. You hid the money because you were scared. He extorted people because he was greedy. Those aren't the same thing. I still should have told you." "Yeah, you should have, but I understand why you didn't." He squeezed my hand. "And I'm ready to move on. Really move on. Not just going through the motions. but actually building something new together. I felt tears prick my eyes. I'd like that. There's one condition. What? He grinned. We're getting a financial advisor. Someone who isn't related to either of us. Someone who can mediate every time we disagree about money. I laughed. Actually laughed. For the first time in what felt like months. Deal. We didn't magically fix everything that night. Recovery isn't linear. Dr. Simone had told us that enough times. But something shifted. The weight that had been pressing down on our marriage for almost a year finally started to lift. 6 months later, we were in a better place than we'd been in years. The $175,000 we had left after paying off the mortgage and helping my mom was growing in a low-risk investment account recommended by our new financial advisor, a very boring, very trustworthy CPA named Harold. My mother was living independently again, in a smaller apartment closer to us. She attended GA meetings twice a week and hadn't gambled since her heart attack. We had dinner together every Sunday. Greg and I renewed our vows for real this time. No big ceremony, no family drama, just us, our best friends as witnesses, and a simple exchange of promises in the backyard of the house we'd finally paid off. I promise to tell you the truth, I said, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I promise to listen, he said, even when I'd rather not hear it. We weren't perfect. We still argued. He still thought I was too controlling about budgets. I still thought he was too casual about savings. But we'd learned something important. Marriage isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest. It's about facing the hard stuff together, instead of hiding from it alone. The lottery money that had almost destroyed us ended up saving us. Not because of the dollars, most of that was gone, but because it forced us to confront the lies we'd been telling each other and ourselves. It broke us down so we could build something stronger. Last week, I was at the gas station where I'd bought that winning scratch-off almost 2 years ago. Same station, same counter, same board cashier. On impulse, I bought another ticket. I scratched it off in the car, just like before. I won $8. I laughed, drove home, and told Greg about it. He laughed too. Should we buy more? He joked. Try for another jackpot? I think we've had enough excitement for one lifetime, I said. Yeah. He pulled me close. I think you're right. We used the $8 to buy ice cream. 2 cones, chocolate and vanilla, eaten on a bench in the park near our house while the sun set. But of course, life doesn't wrap up that neatly. Not really. 3 weeks after that perfect ice cream sunset, my phone rang at 6 a.m. It was my mother, and she was crying. It's Vance, she said. He's been released early. Good behavior. I sat up in bed so fast I nearly gave myself whiplash. What? He was supposed to serve at least 4 years. Apparently the prison was overcrowded. They let out a bunch of nonviolent offenders. He got out yesterday. Nonviolent. As if intimidation and extortion and ruining lives wasn't violence. As if sending Keller to our door with threats wasn't violence. Greg was already awake, watching my face as I processed the news. Vance is out, I said. He didn't say anything. Just got up, walked to the window, and stared out at the morning light like he was looking for answers in the shadows. What do we do? I asked. Nothing. His voice was flat. There's nothing to do. He served his time. Legally, he's free. But nothing. He turned to face me. We spent 2 years of our lives dealing with him. The trial, the testimony, the family fallout. It's done. He's not our problem anymore. What if he comes after us? Then we deal with it. But we're not going to spend every day waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's what he'd want. I wished I could be as calm as Greg sounded. But I knew my husband well enough to see the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. He was just as worried as I was. He just wouldn't let himself show it. The first few weeks after Vance's release were quiet. Too quiet. I kept expecting something. A phone call. A knock on the door. A threat left in our mailbox. But nothing came. Rachel Vasquez, the reporter who'd broken the original story, reached out to let us know she was tracking him. Vance had moved in with his mother, who'd apparently forgiven him during his time in prison. He wasn't supposed to contact any of his former victims, part of his parole conditions, but she wanted us to be aware of the situation. If he reaches out, document everything and call his parole officer immediately, she said. That'll send him right back inside. We took precautions. Changed our locks again. Got a security camera system installed. Made sure our neighbors knew what was going on so they could keep an eye out for anything suspicious. But life went on. I went back to work. Greg went back to work. We had dinner with my mom on Sundays and therapy with Dr. Simone on Wednesdays. Normal life, or as close to it as we could manage. 6 weeks after Vance's release, I came home from work to find a car parked across the street from our house. A silver sedan. Nothing special. But there was someone sitting in the driver's seat, and they weren't getting out. I sat in my own car for a few minutes, watching. The person in the sedan didn't move, didn't look at their phone or read a book or do any of the things normal people do when they're waiting for something. They were just sitting there, staring at our house. I called Greg. There's someone watching our house. What do you mean? There's a car parked across the street. Someone's been sitting in it for at least 15 minutes. Can you see who it is? I squinted through my windshield. The sedan's windows were slightly tinted, but I could make out a figure. Male, I thought. Heavy set. I can't tell. Should I call the police? They're not doing anything illegal, just sitting in a car. Greg sounded frustrated. Take a picture of the license plate and come inside. Don't engage with them. I did as he said, snapped a photo of the sedan, then hurried into the house, locking the door behind me. The car left about an hour later. I never got a clear look at the driver. The next day, it was back. Same spot, same routine. Just watching. Day 3. I'd had enough. I marched across the street and knocked on the driver's window. The window rolled down, and I found myself face to face with Keller. He looked different from the last time I'd seen him. Thinner, older. The menacing bulk that had filled our kitchen 2 years ago had deflated somehow. "Mrs. Brennan?" he said. His voice was still soft. "I was wondering when you'd come over. What are you doing here?" "Watching. Making sure you're okay." "Excuse me?" Keller glanced around like he was checking for witnesses. "Can I explain? Please? It'll only take a few minutes." Every instinct told me to walk away. To call the police, call Greg, call anyone. But something in his voice, something tired and sad, made me hesitate. "You have 5 minutes," I said, "and I'm recording this conversation." I pulled out my phone and started the voice memo app. Keller didn't object. "After the trial," he said. "After Vance went to prison, I lost everything. My job, obviously, since I was working for him. My apartment, because I couldn't pay rent. My reputation, because everyone knew I was his enforcer." He laughed bitterly. "Not that I had much of a reputation to begin with. Why are you telling me this?" "Because I owe you. You and your husband." He met my eyes. "Your testimony put Vance away. Your evidence proved what he was doing. And when he went down, I finally got out." "Got out?" "From under him. You know about my mother? What he did to her?" I nodded. Rachel had told me the story. He held that over me for 8 years. "Do what I say or I'll finish destroying her." But once he was in prison, once he lost all his power and connections, the threat stopped meaning anything. "So you're free now. Good for you. Why are you watching my house?" "Because Vance isn't free anymore. He's out. And the first thing he's going to do is try to rebuild what he lost. That means going after the people who took it away from him." My stomach turned cold. Has he said something? Made threats? Not directly. He's too smart for that. He knows his parole officer is watching. But I still have contacts from the old days. People who owe me favors. Word is, Vance is planning something. I don't know what. I just know it involves you and your husband. Why should I believe you? Keller shrugged. You shouldn't. I was his muscle for 8 years. I helped him hurt people. I don't expect forgiveness or trust. I'm just trying to. He trailed off, searching for words. Make up for some of it, I guess. Warning, you seemed like a start. I stood there on the sidewalk, phone in hand, trying to process everything he was telling me. Keller had been terrifying 2 years ago, a weapon in human form, pointed at whatever target Vance chose. Now he just looked tired, defeated, human. What exactly are you planning to do? I asked. Sit outside my house all day? If that's what it takes, I'm not going to let him hurt anyone else. Especially not the people who finally stopped him. This is insane. Probably. He almost smiled. But sanity hasn't been my strong suit for a while. I went back inside and told Greg everything. He didn't believe it at first. Why would Keller, of all people, want to help us? But when I played him the recording, when he heard the weariness and regret in Keller's voice, he started to come around. We need to tell Rachel, he said. If Vance is planning something, she should know. Rachel was intrigued by the Keller development. He was never charged with anything himself. Vance was careful to keep his hands clean on paper. But he knows where all the bodies are buried, so to speak. If he's willing to cooperate, we might be able to build another case. Another case? Vance already served time. For the old charges, yes. But if he's planning new crimes, we can stop him before he has a chance to hurt anyone else. She set up a meeting with Keller at her office. Greg and I didn't attend. Too risky, too emotional, but she called us afterward with an update. He gave me names, she said. People Vance has been reaching out to since his release. Former associates, potential victims, even a few law enforcement officers he used to have on his payroll. If even half of what Keller says is true, Vance is trying to restart his operation. What can we do about it? Build the case. Document everything. Wait for him to make a move, then nail him. She paused. But there's something else. Something Keller didn't want to tell me until we were alone. What? He says Vance has been talking about your mother. My heart stopped. My mother? Why? Apparently, he blames her for everything that happened. If she hadn't needed money, Greg wouldn't have come to him. If Greg hadn't come to him, you wouldn't have gotten involved. If you hadn't gotten involved, he wouldn't have gone to prison. Rachel's voice was careful. Keller says Vance has been obsessing over it, looking for ways to hurt her without violating his parole. I thought about my mother in her little apartment, recovering from her heart attack, rebuilding her life one day at a time. The idea of Vance targeting her, using her as a way to get to me, made me want to scream. We have to tell her, I said. She needs to know she might be in danger. I agree. But carefully. The last thing we want is to trigger another medical crisis. I drove to my mother's apartment that evening. She could tell something was wrong the moment I walked in. What happened? She asked. Is it Greg? The kids? No one's hurt, but we need to talk. I told her about Vance, about his early release, Keller's warning, Rachel's investigation. Her face went pale as I spoke, but she didn't interrupt. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she walked to her kitchen and poured herself a glass of water. "I should have expected this," she said. "Consequences don't just disappear because you wish they would. This isn't your fault, Mom. Isn't it?" She turned to face me. "I called Greg instead of you. I manipulated him into taking that loan. I set all of this in motion because I was too ashamed to ask my own daughter for help. You were sick. Gambling addiction is a disease. Don't make excuses for me." Her voice was sharp. "I've spent 2 years in therapy learning to take responsibility for my actions. I'm not going to stop now just because it's uncomfortable." I didn't know what to say to that. She was right, in a way. But she was also my mother, and the idea of her carrying this guilt for the rest of her life was unbearable. "What are we going to do?" she asked. "Keep you safe. Rachel is working with Keller to build a case against Vance. In the meantime, you should be careful. Don't open the door for strangers. Don't go out alone at night. Let me or Greg know if you see anything suspicious. I'm 64 years old, Celia. I'm not going to live in fear. Just until this is over, please." She sighed. "Fine, but I'm getting one of those doorbell cameras. If someone's going to threaten me, I want to see their face." I helped her order the camera that night, set it up the next day. It felt like such a small thing against the threat Vance represented, but it was something. A tiny bit of control in a situation that felt entirely out of our hands. 2 weeks later, the first incident happened. My mother called me at work, her voice trembling. "Someone left something on my doorstep." "What is it?" "A box. No label, no return address. I haven't opened it." "Don't open it. Don't touch it. I'm coming over." I made it to her apartment in 20 minutes. The box was sitting on her welcome mat, a plain cardboard package about the size of a shoebox. No markings, no tape, like someone had just set it there and walked away. I called Rachel. She told me to take photos, then open it carefully using gloves. Inside was a photograph, a picture of my mother's old house, the one she'd nearly lost to foreclosure, the one Vance had tried to trap her with. Written on the back in black marker, "Remember what you cost me." We called the police, filed a report, handed over the photo and the box for fingerprints. The officers were sympathetic but realistic. "Unless we can prove who left it, there's not much we can do," the detective said. "It's not explicitly a threat, just a statement. And the photo itself isn't of anything illegal." "He's violating his parole," I said. "He's not supposed to contact his victims. That's a parole violation issue. You'll need to talk to his PO." We did. Vance's parole officer was a tired woman named Linda who'd seen too many cases like this. She brought Vance in for questioning. He denied everything. Said he hadn't been anywhere near my mother's apartment. Said he didn't know what we were talking about. "He's lying," I told Linda. "Probably, but I can't prove it. No fingerprints on the box, no witnesses, no camera footage." She looked genuinely frustrated. "These guys know how to work the system. He'll deny everything until we catch him red-handed. And meanwhile, my mother lives in fear? I'm sorry. I really am. But my hands are tied." We went home that night feeling helpless. Vance was playing games with us, and there was nothing we could do to stop him. But Keller wasn't giving up. He showed up at our door 3 days later with a folder full of documents. "I found out how he did it," he said. "Vance has been using an old friend to make these deliveries. A guy named Richie Tarrant. They did time together. Richie has no connection to you or your family, so there's nothing suspicious about him being in the area. How does that help us? Because I know Richie, and Richie owes me." Keller's eyes were hard. "If I can get him to flip to testify that Vance paid him to deliver that package, we can nail him for parole violation." "Why would Richie flip?" "Because he's scared. Vance treats his people like tools. Disposable. Richie knows that sooner or later, he'll be thrown away too. He just needs someone to offer him an alternative." Greg looked at me. I looked at Greg. "What do you need from us?" Greg asked. "Nothing. Just stay out of the way and let me handle it." Keller gathered his papers. "I'll be in touch." He left. Greg and I stood in our kitchen, the same kitchen where Vance had extorted us 2 years ago, and tried to process what was happening. "Do you trust him?" I asked. "Keller? No. But I trust that he hates Vance more than he hates us." Greg rubbed his face. "This is insane. We're relying on an ex-enforcer to protect us from a convicted criminal. Do we have any better options?" He didn't answer. We both knew we didn't. Keller was good at his word. Within a week, he had Richie Tarrant on tape admitting that Vance had paid him $500 to deliver the package to my mother's door. He also had records of cash withdrawals from an account Vance had hidden from his parole officer, money he was using to fund his harassment campaign. Rachel took the evidence to the DA's office. They took it to the parole board. 3 days later, Vance was arrested for parole violation. This time, there was no early release, no good behavior credits. He'd violated the terms of his freedom within 6 months of getting out, and the system finally decided to take him seriously. He was sent back to finish his original sentence, plus an additional 18 months for the violation, 4.5 more years. By the time he got out, Greg and I would be middle-aged. Our kids, if we ever had them, would be in school. My mother might not even be alive. 4.5 years of safety, of peace, of finally being able to breathe. The day after Vance was taken back to prison, Keller came to see us one last time. "It's done," he said. "He won't bother you again." "What are you going to do now?" I asked. "I don't know. Start over, I guess. Find a real job. Maybe leave town. He paused. There's a program for people like me, former criminals, trying to go straight. They help you find work, get housing, build a new life. I'm thinking about applying. You should, Greg said. It was the first kind word I'd ever heard him say to Keller. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For everything I did. For being part of what happened to you. Keller met our eyes. I know sorry doesn't fix anything, but I wanted you to know. He left. We never saw him again. I think about Keller sometimes. Wonder if he made it. If he found that job, that apartment, that new life. If he ever managed to outrun the person he used to be. I hope he did. Not because he deserves forgiveness, I'm not sure anyone can earn that, but because it means change is possible. That people can look at the wreckage they've caused and choose to build something better. That's what Greg and I did. What we're still doing. The lottery money is mostly gone now. We invested what was left after everything, after Vance, after my mother's recovery, after rebuilding our entire lives from the ground up. It's not much, but it's growing. Slowly, steadily. We have a financial advisor named Harold who is exactly as boring as he sounds. We have monthly budget meetings that sometimes turn into arguments but always end in resolution. We have a marriage that's stronger than it's ever been, built on honesty instead of secrets.